Thanks, Mark, and hello, everybody. Really lovely to be here with you. Oh, let's land together, seeing some of your faces. Welcome, Bruchim Habayim. Blessed are those that come, those that are coming, showing up. Something in my mind and heart at the moment is something one of my teachers, Rob Babea, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be a blessing, said once in an online group meeting. And it's really kind of struck a chord with me. He said that when you come to practice together in a group, it happened to be online, but it could have been in person. He said there are 5 different domains that you can bring attention to, at least. He said 5, so I'm going to stick with those. 5 different aspects of experience that we can intentionally turn towards, notice, receive, and practice with. By spending a little bit of time with each, we feel our way into this moment that we all share. So I want to explore this together in practice, and you'll see what they are. The first one is the body. So with that, I invite you to bring some attention to the body. Attention to the way the body is arranged, the posture. Finding for yourself some stability, the soles of the feet on the floor, the body rising up from whatever it's resting on, the muscles hanging from the skeleton, the shoulders dropping. These are all suggestions. They may be relevant for you, they may not. Letting your body find its own harmony of stability and uprightness and ease. Seeing if you might include in awareness the sensations of the ground, where in our tradition the Shekhinah, the divine spirit, is said to dwell. Maybe the eyes are closed, maybe they're open, but inviting the sensations of the ground into the space. The bottom on the chair or cushion, the feet on the floor, the earth pressing up into your being. Not just the idea of the ground, but the very sensations live and unfolding. Pressure, the contact, maybe the temperature or the tingling that remind you of this vast solidity underneath it all. This sacred ground permeated by the spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. From the ground, from the sense of the ground, expanding attention to, as best you can, inhabit the body rightly and softly. Perhaps with the in-breath, allowing attention to fill this landscape of the body. A sense of energizing, of brightening. And as you release, as you exhale, a sense also of softening. At Talmud teaches us that sighing softens the body. Seeing if you notice any of this softening, even just 1, 2% as you breathe out. We're just noticing how is it for the body right now, inviting attention to include the body, which is not to say it has to be the only thing, but just to make some space for the body to be here too. Maybe one thing, maybe many, maybe it's in words, maybe not. All of it okay, all of it welcome. This first domain of the body. The second domain is the heart. Noticing the heart as physical organ, throbbing, beating, enlivening, moment by moment, and as energy center in the chest, source of vitality, as best you can, making some room in awareness for the textures of the heart, the moods, the colors, the kind of inner weather, sometimes stormy, cloudy, sometimes clear. All of these, the dimension of the heart, we could say. Maybe there's some rachamim, as Mark said, some compassion available for this tender human heart, all that it absorbs, all that it feels, all that it receives. And it keeps on beating. Maybe you want to put a hand on the chest or the heart, supporting the connectedness with this second domain. How is it for the heart right now? Again, maybe one thing, maybe many, maybe it's words that come in response, and maybe not. The third domain we can bring attention to in practice is our intention, our kavanah. There's some part of you that drew you here, that drew you to log on, to show up, to enter the space, to step through the doorway. What actually happens here today in our time, the fullness of the experience is almost always mixed. Bit of this, bit of that, sometimes more, sometimes less. You probably know this for yourself. The intention, what drew you here is distinct and clearer, or can be. It's in the direction of something. a presence or healing or integration or love, whatever the words are for you, whatever the felt sense is for you. Just to turn in a certain direction does something, a direction of kedusha, of holiness, as in the practice of turning and facing Jerusalem, Yerushalayim in prayer. So there's something that we're turning towards, that we're intending, longing for. And what we're oriented towards is, in a wider way, here now, present as our North Star, our aspiration, our Jerusalem. Maybe you can sense into what is it that's drawn you here? You sense that it is here in some way in the wider space of awareness. In this week, when we read in the Torah of the revelation at Sinai, perhaps we could say that part of our intention is to open to receive something, something that's given continually, flowing down, as our mystics tell us, which is so easy to miss in the busyness of things. We're taking some time to receive what's always being given. Seeing if you might make some space for what you're turning towards, what's drawn you here like a magnet. You may not be right next to it, but you feel its pull. The fourth domain is togetherness. This body, this heart, this intention or intentions is not alone. This is always true whenever we practice. Even if we think we're sitting down on our own, somewhere around the world there are others doing the same. Kol v'chomer, as we would say, how much more so is this togetherness manifest here and now in this wonderful community present in the stillness. Each of us bringing our own personal world and all of us sharing a greater one, a greater oneness. Perhaps tuning in to the wider space, the space that we are all sharing right now. Perhaps you feel your awareness broadening, letting others be here too. And of course, this is an invitation. You choose. The fifth domain, connected to but distinct from the fourth, is participation. We could say co-creation. What happens here in our practice together depends on each of us. The particular way we show up, we sit, we attend, we contribute in words or silently, our image, our presence, even if we're off screen. You sense that what's emerging now is being made by all of us together. It's not fixed, is yet to be seen, is in our hands. Sometimes in practice, things soften enough. The sense of competition, of me and you, really drops out. There's a feeling that just to be in this breathtaking, mysterious, heartbreaking, and poignant creation, just to participate in it is enough. Add your voice to the conversation, your being to the great fabric, through words or deeds or heart beating in the silence. All of us participating, making it. Maybe there's a particular domain that you want to return to and spend a little more time with. Maybe it's more than one. Maybe it's all of them. Just seeing what offers itself, what's prominent, what calls to you, what reveals itself. You can spend a bit more time with it. Sometimes, as we come into the final few minutes, it's like we scramble to get something out of the meditation. And sometimes, instead, there's quite the opposite, an extra degree of release. We stop trying to make something of it, to take something away, wrap our heads around it all, and we just let ourselves be in it. And everything softens and opens, and we kind of float or spark or lighten. All of it here in the space, body, heart, intentions, togetherness, and participation. Perhaps from somewhere in this diverse whole, there's some tefillah, some prayer that wants to come through you in these closing moments. Maybe in words, maybe in feeling, maybe both. My prayer is a short poem which is speaking to me today. It's called Oceans by Juan Ramon Jimenez. I have a feeling that my boat has struck down there in the depths against a great thing. Nothing happens. Nothing. Silence. Waves. Nothing happens? Or has everything happened? And are we standing now quietly in the new life? Seh shalom bimramav. Seh shalom aleinu. Al kol Yisrael. Al kol yoshvei tevel. May the one who makes peace in the heights make peace for us, for all Israel, for everyone that sits on the earth. Imru Amen.
Thank you so much, Zac. Amen. And friends, we seal our practice as we do each day, offering those of you in mourning or observing yard sites, or if it's your custom to join in the Kaddish to do so. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present for those who are for a moment. And you can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. Thanks to Rachel for sharing the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on the screen. And if you're reciting them with me, please join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Gadal
Yukata,
Vikata
Yukata,
Samirabha
Samirabha,
and Madibra
Yurakate,
Te
Yutakate,
Kayeho Yomefo
Yukon, Utsa Eri,
Mahman
Mahmakali,
Kali
Ne,
Hey, Rabba Mirahi,
No,
Lamayanaya,
Kushalan,
Se, Vari,
Sa,
Shri, Jabriku, Laelami, Kirtata, Vishukata, Vanasamaya, Ayaramba, Ishlama Rabban,
Say salam bimba,
Shalom
say salam
Bimama, Yasa Shalom Bimini, Shvetebel, Bimru, Amen. And friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to our teacher, Zac Newman of Hamakom in the UK. As always, a beautiful opportunity for practice with you, Zac. Very grateful. And as always, you're welcome to stay on, either to continue to sit with our community, in which case you could turn your sound off and just use this container to continue with your own practice, or join us for some conversation with Zac about the teaching, or to share reflections on the practice for a few minutes. And if you're leaving us now, we hope you'll join us tomorrow. Cantor Louise Treitman will be leading us in practice tomorrow, and Josh Figelston will be here to host. Here's our lineup for the rest of the week. On Wednesday, Cantor Julie Newman will be leading us. On Thursday, Cantor Kareth Spencer Shapiro. And we're delighted that we're partnering with Dorot in New York City for Friday's sit, which will feature Janice Rouse, who will be leading us in a special session, applying practice to navigating the aging body. That's on Friday, to sit into Shabbat together. So if you have a question for Zac, please put it in the chat and preface it by writing question in all caps. And I will keep an eye on that. I have to say, Zac, that was such a wonderfully soothing practice today. So much so that I missed number 3. I think my mind drifted away at number 3. So I wouldn't mind if you would go through the 5 again, starting with our bodies, of course, which is always the right place to start. Maybe take just a quick recap of those 5 that people might be able to bring into the rest of their day.
Yeah, with pleasure. It definitely is not a quiz that you have to remember them all in the silence. And
Yeah.
So number 1 is the body. Number 2 is the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Heart in the sense of the moods, the emotions, the colors. Number 3 is kavanah, is intention. So this is the sense that there's something that has drawn us into this practice, this particular meeting, something that we're moving towards. And the suggestion is that just to be facing in the direction of something is already meaningful. Like when we turn and face Jerusalem in prayer, the kotel, right? Specifically, the wall. We can sort of get stuck on, but I'm not there yet, or how close am I? I've come here for peacefulness. How much peacefulness have I got? Or how much clarity, or how much whatever it is. But just to be facing in the direction of something is already something. And actually, if we allow awareness to be wide, then often what we realize is what we're turning towards, what our intention is moving us in the direction of, is already in some sense here. Like, oh, it's here. Jerusalem is here. What I'm longing for is here. So that's the third. The fourth is togetherness, is just to feel the presence of other beings in the space. There's everything rattling around in my head and my body, my heart. And then there's all these other bodies and hearts and minds reminding me that, wow, the space is so much bigger, even than the vastness of my own inner life. And fifth, connected to the fourth, is that we're not just together as passive recipients, we're making it together. The particular qualities and emergences depend on each of us in different ways at different times. We're participating. We're not just receiving.
It's really beautiful. And it's interesting. Well, last week, before we began, I mentioned to you, Rebecca, just led us all last week in this practicing with the elements where we moved through the four worlds. And I guess it was, there were similarities, right? Beginning with the body and then the heart, the seat of emotions, and then the mind, and then spirit. We worked with earth, water, air, and fire for Tuesday through Friday last week. So I appreciate these variations on those themes, and also with the mind, it feels like it's not just bringing attention to the mind, but actually inclining the mind. You were describing that as intention. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly, that we're inclining the mind to see something that we would otherwise not see. And that leads into the togetherness. Oh, right. I'm not here by myself. I'm here as part of this group. And we're not just sitting here. There's an action involved here. So I appreciate all of that. Where did you get that from? May I ask? You said?
I got it from a teacher of mine called Rob Burbeyer, who was a Jewish guy from North London, like me. And he became a teacher primarily in a Buddhist context here in the UK. But later in his life, he also became a student of Kabbalah. And yeah, it was a very beautiful teacher. And he died just at the start of the pandemic, age
Mm.
20.
Laba Shalom.
Mm.
And thanks for passing on that teaching. Lori is asking the question, would you please say more about what you mean when you say, quote, standing in the new life? I don't know. I missed that phrase,
Mm.
actually. But would you maybe remember you saying that?
Mm. Yeah, thanks, Laurie. So this is the last line of the poem that I read, where something's happened, and the poet says it feels like nothing at first, and then it's like nothing, or is it everything? And are we standing quietly in the new life? I think this speaks to me in a moving way because there's so much uncertainty in it. It's like something's happened and I don't know. There's different stories I can tell about what's going on. It could be that, oh, nothing's happened, it's all the same, or it could be that everything's happened and it's all new. And both of those have their challenges and their blessings. To me, there's a real openness in my moment to moment experience. If I look closely, I'm not really sure a lot of the time. Sometimes there's fear in that. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's just beautifully open. The new life is a possibility. Maybe in some way I do or don't yet discern, things have changed. In our current context, and I'm thinking of the war, it's easy for me to hear that first of all in a painful way, like something is lost, something is broken. I really want to honor that possibility. and let my heart be broken with it. And the uncertainty of the poem is also liberating because it reminds me that my own conclusions, my own sense of what is happening in my own life and in the world is never final. Maybe there's a lot more to it than I see. Doesn't make it okay. Doesn't mean I don't want to do anything about it for healing, for justice, for peace. But it does help me to take, therefore, a little bit more lightly my own stories, my own sense of what's going on, what's happening. It's all got a bit of a maybe
Hmm.
around it in a helpful way.
Can we talk a little bit about that? I sometimes, there's that famous Zen parable, right, where of terrible news, one piece of terrible news after another, and the response is perhaps it's terrible, perhaps it's terrible, right, and ends up, in fact, not being terrible. Um, the that idea of forming a judgment about something that is happening now, but being open to not knowing, I think is actually also deeply Jewish. We can ground that very much, I think, in our tradition. I don't think, um, which I think is not. Just want to lift that up. That the moment of curiosity of not knowing of it's expressed, I think, in the Talmud by this character Nahum ben Gamzu, who's famous for saying Gamzu Latova. This too will be for the good, even when something is not going well. And people say, how can you be okay with that? And he says, well, we'll see. Basically, we'll see. We'll see how it will
Mm.
unfold. And I appreciate, you're describing being able to hold both, right? Of being able to say, wow, maybe this is about loss. Maybe this is this. Um, but it keeps the heart open, I think, right? To have that other piece as well, and to have both. Um, the name of
Yeah.
the name of the poem again, Zach?
The name
Title
of
of
the
the poem?
poem is Oceans. In fact, it's here on my screen, so I can put it in the chat for you. Um, yeah, thanks, Mark. I'm thinking of, I think it's both the Baal Shem Tov in the 18th century and Rav Moshe Cordovera a few hundred years earlier, who have this line, Tachlit hayediyah shelo neda, that the aim or the end of knowledge is that we don't know.
Right.
And you spoke beautifully, Mark, at the beginning about these moments of Shabbat. To me, there's something here also about these moments of not knowing. It's one of my most regular and treasured practices. I just say to myself, like, I don't know. Ani lo yodea. It's a kind of like royal road. It's like a quick route to a kind of spaciousness and mystery and wonder. Sometimes via I don't know, I should know, and all of that. But with practice, that kind of gets a bit more familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of compassion and, oh, dear one, you really do want to know, don't you? You care. When I allow myself not to know, it's really like a kind of Shabbat. It's like a break from you've got to know what to say about this and what your opinion is about that and what you're going to do about this. And you've got to know what you think about that thing that happened. Ay, 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 ay. And I find, as you said, like it doesn't stop me trying to work things out that I need to work out. It just kind of releases the pressure valve. It means I'm still going to do my best. I'm still going to speak where I need to speak and stand where I need to stand. But there's just this lightness that kind of pervades the whole thing a bit more. That's like, hey, look, I'm doing my best here. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I need to say this. I feel like I need to take a stand on that. And maybe in time I'll come to think differently. And likewise for us all.
Likewise for us all. Well, that is, that's a quality that's in such short supply and so needed, I think, particularly when, in times of crisis or stress, when we might double down on feeling that need to know, right? So that really tempers it. And I appreciate you also associating that with this kind of mini Shabbat, that the Shabbat mind, which is relieved of that need to know. It's a kind of openness. Maybe that's why, it's the day of revelation for us. We read Torah, we learn Torah, Torah is revealed to us, and that can only happen when we adopt that stance of, I don't know. Let me learn, let me see. Right? So I really appreciate you lifting this up, especially in these times. And thanks for those of you who are sharing some great resources in the chat, music and philo to go with this theme as well. So maybe we'll wrap it up there, Zac. Just want to, as always, such a pleasure to be with you, and so appreciate your presence and the depth of your practice and teaching. And it's as always with powerful teaching, it's communicated in so many ways, tangible and intangible. So thank you so much for that, for the presence, and for being here with us and enhancing our community with your teaching and presence. And thank you, Rachel Huguet and Jeff Bachman, for holding our space as always, so with so much grace today, and each of you for being here. We have a beautiful week of practice ahead. It's a wonderful start. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow with Kenner Louise Treitman, and Zac will look forward to your next visit with us. Erev Tov there, be well. Blessings,
Thanks so
everyone.
much, Mark. Thanks so much, everybody.